welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. We are here to discuss Moon Knight. And I think that when we get to the finale of Moon Knight, the ultimate question that we are left with is, the Deus Ex Machina. I feel like that is a big discussion to have after this. Alright, so let's start out with, where we were and all of that. So, there is kind of this meandering story plot through the entire thing, where, the movie is about, what's it called? What's I'm looking for here? Mark trying to stop, what's his name? Arthur Harrow from unleashing Ammit, and then Ammit going around and doing her version of cleansing sinners, which in this case is before, before they do what they do. Very Hydra-ish in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. In Captain America the Winter Soldier. So that all makes kind of sense, and it's very slow moving, and despite the fact that this is what the plan is, the stakes never really feel that high. The stakes in the show never really hit a crescendo of we need to do this now, otherwise this will happen immediately, and there's no sense of urgency to anything that happens in the show at all. At no point do we feel this needs to happen, now, otherwise something cataclysmic will happen. That explanation never comes. And that, I think, is a little bit of a problem for the show, because you need something to drive the plot forward to keep the viewer interested. I need to have something there to be okay, there's a reason they're doing this. If they don't do this, this bad thing will happen, and this bad thing will happen imminently. So it's in the beginning it was we had to stop the Scarab from getting to Harrow. Then Harrow gets the Scarab, and then it's okay, well, we need to find the tomb. Then they find the tomb, but Harrow also finds the tomb. And then they find, and then they end up finding, so we get to the tomb. Now we have to find the thing that's sealing Ammit in before Harrow does. And then they find that, and it's nothing really matters in this show, because everything just kind of happens anyway. So they get to, they end up getting to, so after they find the thing that's sealing in Ammit, our friend, what's his name? Our friend Arthur shoots, Mark, and presumably kills Mark, and then we end up in, the next world, where Mark is in the field of reeds, and he's hanging out with, no one, because it's a big empty field of reeds, because you would think that they would be oh, and here's everyone, who, everyone else who has died, so you're hanging out with people. No, it's just the field of reeds, empty and alone. And it's just kind of one of those things where it's okay, cool, I guess. So, now we have Ammit's judgment, and Ammit is, released from the thing, and Arthur's talking to Ammit, and Ammit chooses Arthur as her avatar. So then we end up with, and again I'm going to say this, if you have kids, and, there is an appointed bus stop. Have your kids at the bus stop. Don't have your kids up at the top of the hill 3 houses down and then run down when the bus comes. It's annoying, and it's inconsiderate to anyone on the road who's trying to get to work. So now that Ammit is released and is bonded with Arthur, the question becomes, what happens now? And now we have to have a fight between Moon Knight and Arthur. So, Layla ends up becoming the avatar for the hippo goddess, Tiamat, I think her name was, who was in, what's it called? Who was the one who helped, who helped Steven and Mark, balance the scales. And then she liberates Khonshu, and Steven and Mark escape from the next world and rejoin with their body, and they're, and then Moon Knight is back. So then we have to have a fight, and it is Layla as the Scarlet Scarab, which is cool. She's got a cool costume, and she has a really cool sequence too when she first allows the to fuse with her, the goddess to become for her to become the goddess's avatar. I mean, I'm just not on it today. That moment's pretty cool because it's her acting against herself, and she's doing kind of like what Oscar Isaac does, where it's like she's acting as the goddess and also acting as herself, having a conversation with herself. It's a pretty cool sequence. Then comes the fight with a giant CGI fight between at once you get this giant fight between a giant version of Ammit and a giant version of Khonshu. But that doesn't really mean too much. If it weren't for the philosophical nature of what Ammit wants to do, where the audience can latch onto it and be like, okay, I know that's wrong, so I'm going to do the right thing. If it weren't for the fact that happened, then if it weren't for that, the audience wouldn't, there'd be no reason for the two of them to fight, or for the audience to care about the fact that they're fighting. Who cares that, Khonshu and Ammit are fighting? We don't have any relationship between the two. Ammit hasn't been in the show until this episode, and then Khonshu is just I don't like her because she's doing it first. There's no interpersonal relationship between the two. It's just a philosophical difference, and if that's gonna be the foundation of your fight in the third act, then that's a problem. Especially the big CGI fight, and then comes the grounded fight between Layla and Mark and Arthur, and I feel like the Layla and Mark fight is the more interesting of the two, because and the thing is too, I'm looking at the fight between the two gods, I'm like, no one's gonna see the two gods, no one sees that, no people who are there see that. What else was there in this episode? And the Deus Ex Machina comes from the fact that Mark is on his last legs. Layla she's pinned to a car, and she can't get by, and, and then, what happens? He blacks out, Mark and Steven black out, and they're on top of Arthur, and everyone around them is unconscious except for Layla, and Layla's like, what the fuck happened? And Mark and Steven are like, well, that wasn't me, and if that wasn't you, and, then what was this? So it's this thing where it's okay, so we're using the third personality there, but I feel like, it feels like a cop-out. That would have been the kind of thing that, use the third personality throughout the show a little bit better. Because over the course of the show, the third personality only ever shows up in bits and pieces, and then in the post-credit scene in this case, where we actually meet the third personality for the first time. But, I feel like the idea that if we're going to do this thing where he's got the third personality, Jake Lockley, I feel like the idea is we should have had an introduction to Jake before this point, instead of just alluding to the fact that there is a third personality. And I'm not saying that the post-credit scene couldn't have worked a little bit better, and I think that my real issue comes from the fact that the third act resolution to how he's going to fight, to how he's going to fight Harrow, and how he's going to not die fighting Harrow, more importantly, comes down to, it needs to be Jake. Like, Jake Lockley needs to come out and do his thing. And we don't see that. And I feel like there are two ways they could have done that sequence that would have been better. Number one, not do what they did at all. And go right to, and here is, and have Mark beat Harrow wholesale and then make the decision not to kill him, which would work just as well. Or show us the sequence, and then we could be like, what the fuck, who is that? And then you do the post-credit reveal of Jake Lockley. I feel like that would have been a better way to do it, but there's, like, doing the lost time thing is just anticlimactic for the fight, because we have, like, we're at the highest stakes, and then it does that thing where it like that, and then it like something like that, and then it goes to what's it called? Him standing on top of Harrow, and it's like no one knows what happened. And the post credits is great. The post credits is great. It's it is the introduction of like, I think putting Harrow in the jail was, like, perfect. And the thing is, too, I'm realizing more and more watching these TV shows that Marvel is kind of treating these shows like incredibly long movies. Where it's like, the whole last episode is third act. The whole last episode is third act. And because the whole last episode is third act, there's a lot more ground they're free to cover. And while they're covering that ground, they get the ability to, really flesh out and do things. So, like, I feel like I've said it before, where it's like, I don't know how they're going to wrap this up in one episode. Like, it feels like that's a common thread. I wasn't back when WandaVision came out, but for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I feel like that was definitely a thing, where I was like, I don't know how they're going to wrap this up in one episode. And probably the same for Loki, where it's like, I don't know how they're going to wrap this up in one episode. And I definitely said it last week, where I'm like, what the fuck? There's still a lot of ground they have to cover. So, it's that kind of thing where it's like, it needs to be handled properly. Otherwise, it's not going to, work out. And I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, it's not being done right. It's just, it's a, what's it called? It's not confusing. It's just something. It's a new style of storytelling that needs to be adjusted into. Where it's like, we're not here to watch a, what's it called? We're not here to watch a like, we're not watching a TV show in the conventional sense. We're not watching a Moon Knight. Like, if this was Moon Knight on the CW, it would not be this, because Moon Knight on the CW would be very different. Or Moon Knight, even if it was Moon Knight on ABC, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Inhumans were, or Most Wanted almost was, or even like, the Hulu shows that Marvel did. Like, this feels very different from a standard TV show, because what we're watching is a very long movie. And that takes some adjustment to get used to the fact that is what we're watching, and not watching a TV show in the conventional sense. So by the time we get to the third act, it's like, the third act is the last 45 minutes of the thing, and it's like, it's really just, you're watching a 4 to 5 hour movie. Yeah, it's an interesting finale, and what they did was cool. It's just, the resolution of the fight was not exactly the best. It's the kind of thing where if I saw that in a movie theater and I left, I'd be like, what the fuck? And it's like, I feel like there was definitely a better way to resolve that fight. That wasn't Jake taking over that. I feel like that's the thing, is if we're going full thrust into Jake, in season 2, which everyone's playing coy about, but I think Marvel's going to do a season 2 because Marvel seems all in on the paranormal aspects of the MCU, where we have this. I mean, Eternals introduced Black Knight, and Blade's going to be there, and we have the Halloween special coming, and, you know, they're getting into the more horror tinge aspects of it. I'm sure we're getting a season 2. And the thing is, too, one of the things I noticed in the credits that makes me think we're going to get a season 2 is who's an executive producer on the show? Oscar Isaac, which means he makes a fuck ton on the back end. So he's going to want to come back and do this again, I feel like. If for no other reason, then the paycheck has to be really nice on this show. And I hope we get a season 2, because I like, this cast is great. I mean, F. Murray Abraham is great as Khonshu, and I love the way he plays Khonshu. May Callum, I'm not good at time to pronounce her name because I know I'm going to fuck it up, but the woman who plays Layla is great too, and she really got a chance in her last 2 appearances to really show herself off, and, like, you know, and showcase some acting ability beyond just playing beyond just playing like Mark's love interest. She got room to try things, and she did. She did have that moment in the mental institution where she's, you know, scrambling around trying to, you know, playing the neurotic, and then in this episode, she got to play the multiple personalities a little bit too, and that was cool. The having the conversation with herself was a cool thing to show, to have her do in the show. So it's interesting to me that, you know, if the show doesn't get picked up, I think that would be very unlikely. But I think the show will get a second season. You are an asshole, sir. Sorry, there's an accident or something. There's heavy, like, police and EMS activity. This guy was in the left lane next to me, behind me, and then ran around into the lane that was closed because of the police activity. And then that bothers me so much. I don't think you need this many responders for an accident like that. That does not look like an accident that requires 4 cops, an ambulance, and a fire marshal. So Moon Knight is at an end. I'm out of things to talk about on Moon Knight. If you have not watched Moon Knight yet, and you've been waiting for me to finish it before you do, on the off chance that was the case, you can watch Moon Knight on Disney Plus it's all up there now, so it's all available to watch at your leisure, at your convenience. You can just go onto the app and be like, hey, look, Moon Knight, and you watch Moon Knight. I don't think it's going to play into tonight's big feature, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which I'll be seeing at a little after 6 on the East Coast in 3D, which is great because I don't have a migraine for 2 days after. Love that. So let's wrap up there for today. So as I said, tonight we have Tonight we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but before that, on my way to see that, I will record an episode about the finale of The Girl from Plainville, which I also watched last night. And then we will do, We will do Under the Banner of Heaven episode 3, which will be the next thing we discuss after after Multiverse of Madness, and also The Flash. I'll probably do The Flash first, then Under the Banner of Heaven, because I like The Flash better. And I feel like we will certainly have something to talk about based on what I read on comicbook.com about what happened in last night's episode. We are certainly going to have things to talk about on The Flash this week. So as always, if you are enjoying the show and you want to see more, we do talk about a lot of different things, spanning a wide range of topics. So if you do want to hear more, just hit the subscribe button. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you can rate the podcast, give it 5 stars. Because if you subscribe, you'll be able to see anything that comes into your feed. And you can see, oh, we're talking about this today. Maybe I'll listen to that. Oh, here's something I didn't hear of before. Maybe I'll listen to that. And eventually we'll get around to doing Crush. I mean to do Crush. It's been packed lately. We're going to have a little bit of a lull because 2 of the shows are ending. And then we'll be good. And then maybe in the summer I'll do some catch-up, but that'll be over on 30-minute reviews if I do a catch-up on Superman and Lois. Because I need something else to do next year, I guess. So we'll do some catch-up. That'll be fun. So until our next episode, which will be 2 more tonight. Holy crap. We will have had 5 episodes in 2 days. I think that's probably a record for us. With how much shit happened. Well, only because, the Star Wars episode about, what's it called? Was a 2-parter. The Star Wars, The Force Awakens analysis for Star Wars Day yesterday was a 2-parter. So we'll wrap up there for today. And until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.